And Pettigrew, how are you?
Simon McLean.
We
I'm
meet again.
delighted to be here.
We go all that time and we only meet on Zoom, and now we meet every week in
much
a
better,
house for an art lover. We're really moving up in the world, aren't
Much better talking in person, always.
Always, yes. And we've all missed it so much. House for an art lover. We've got the launch here of the Carnelian tree. Have you any history in here?
Well, I've always loved Macintosh and the Glasgow Boys, and I have been to painting classes here before they moved to all the art studios across the path, and thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great fun, and had lunch every day for a week during it, which was very nice.
That was a
nice restaurant.
So, Dr. Pettigrew and all this creativity, art classes and writing.
Well, actually, a lot of doctors I know write and paint, and there's a lot of well-known people who turn from medicine. I think medicine, more than anything else, particularly being a GP, you really get to know people because they tell you lots of things because they know it's in confidence. And I had a friend who used to say that in Greenock Health Centre, if she suddenly started driving a great big car, you'd know because she was blackmailing people that she wasn't going to let on who was having affairs and stuff. So, I mean, you're very interested in people. And there were loads of them, like Ibsen and Khaled Hosseini and Cronin, and a lot of these people are doctors. But I discovered when I started...
And pathologists,
and when I was looking at the literature before I wrote my first book, I discovered that in fact there were very little in the way of books about medics and female in any form. There were some, really historical ones like Dr. Quinn Medicine Women, and there was Seagal's Doctors, and there was Cronin, and there was Gordon, but there was only the odd token woman in there as a kind of love interest, if you like. And there was, apart from a hilarious book by a girl called McFadden, The Devil Wears Scrubs, about trying to become a surgeon in California, which was hilarious. That was the only one I found, but I think there's quite a few now. Interesting.
You started off. So how many books have you got now?
Well, that's the third one, and there's another one that's kind of halfway through, but it's different. But the first two I felt stood alone because I took this girl from Govan, working class girl, took her through university.
That's not the Death Imagined?
No, so the first one's not the Life Imagined, and it's mainly about the girls that went to medical school, and there was only 35% of maybe 40 actually, percent of the class were women, which people don't realise. It was in the early 70s before it was equal admission, because they kept the number of women down, and now in fact it's about 60% because it's purely on merit and interview. So so the first one took them to junior doctorate stage, and the second one was more in-depth look at general practice and about this same girl, now married with kids, juggling her life like many of us do.
That was not the Death Imagined.
That's the Death, not the Death Imagined. Is about a serial GP killer in Mulgai that she cannot convince people. Mulgai being the most leafy suburb I could think of, it was least likely to contain a murderer. So that was that. So I felt that was a different thing. But the third one is set in Oxford, where I took off at 53 to do a master's, which is a bit bizarre.
And it has nothing to do with the other books at all?
Nothing at all. Except that the girl who's the main figure, if you like, is from Glasgow. Judith, who she has been messily divorced, and she's a teacher in a deprived school, and she's looking for new ideas, and someone tells her that she needs to do a master's in education, and she gets into Oxford where her daughter is doing a medical degree, and then it all goes pear-shaped when she wakes up one night and then she finds a dead body. And it's all linked to ancient texts, which I discovered while I was researching it. It wasn't what I planned to write at all, but books have a habit of writing things.
That's interesting. So when you started, you didn't know where the end was going?
No, I thought it was going to be about a kind of murder, but I thought it was going to be about some inter-college kind of thing. And then I discovered this ancient manuscript that bits of kept turning up in the desert. And I went in 2003. So I made it set in 2003 when the place was full of anti-war demos, much more than in Scotland.
Where was it?
In Oxford University in 2003, and I put it in a house like a kind of Agatha Christie. They're all a wee bit nuts, and some of them are not what they seem.
Okay, we don't want any spoilers here, of
No,
course.
no spoilers, but it is to do this book that's in it. This ancient book is a real book, and this ancient book turns up in bits in the desert in Iraq, which is surprisingly the cradle of civilization, because I don't think I was quite sure till then, but it actually was Mesopotamia, where everything started, crops and art and everything. And this ancient book is in the Bible and the Iliad and Arabian Nights, lots of the stories. And according to my lovely intern Ruth Fay, who studied at university, it's actually a perfect example of from where we have got Rider Haggard's King Solomon mines. And
you didn't go in there for research purposes, no?
Not really fancy it. But also things like Indiana Jones.
Good deals just now.
I'm sure. Indiana Jones and stuff, so nothing's new under the sun.
No, we just regurgitate and tie all the bits together, more and more. So the launch in here on the 20th October, the Thursday night, what we got lined up for that? You got a special guest coming?
Well, I have got Judith Ralston, who's a TV personality. People will recognise her from her weather forecasting. And she is also appeared in lots of other programmes and hosted for the BBC. And she's a great friend and she's very funny. And we had a script last time and she didn't keep to it. So I do have a sort of questions I'd like asked this time, but I have not yet got her agreement. But she's a lovely.
How do you know Judith?
We know Judith. Oh, so that's kind of a long story. We have very, very good friends who were opera singers, and Judith was at opera school with them. She was an opera singer, and then we kind of met her. And she has twin kids who adopted my husband as their grandpa because they don't have one. So the rest is
Grandpa Norman.
Grandpa Norman. That's right.
So it's a long history.
It's a long history, and she's been a very faithful friend and hilarious. But she's very busy and she does a lot for charity. She's always hosting big galas and stuff for nothing. She's a very nice. On
that topic, and the proceeds of your books, the proceeds of a lot of what you do go to charity. Can you tell us a wee bit about that?
Yes, over the years I've really supported quite a lot of charities like WaterAid, and I became very interested in Plan UK. When my daughter was PLAN UK, and it's kind of like a conglomerate international. There's Plan UK in Britain, and there's Plan International, and they're all part of the same thing. And what they do is that their aim is to improve the lot, particularly of women and children, and for children's education and welfare. And I feel that their sort of ethos, rather like Ringwood, having this great ethos of supporting authors and not being out for making profits, but for just trying to get authors aired and ideas aired that might not otherwise be taken up.
Stories told.
The story is told. And so they do things like form cooperatives of women in poor areas and send in people to help them with agriculture and all that sort of thing, apart from education and books and things. And it's a very well-rounded society. And I know exactly what they do because Susanna travelled. I mean, for example, the Far Eastern Laos.
That's your daughter?
Her daughter. But she's no longer with them, but I know they're struggling. I had an email from the girl yesterday, so she was absolutely thrilled that there was another book and that we would have a raffle for them.
On the night?
So if anyone's coming, bring cash, we're having a raffle. And Ringwood will be generously donating prizes. So I think it's a very worthwhile charity. And my first book was dedicated to girls worldwide. There's something that I think it's something like, I think it was 30 million or something, girls who don't have access to education.
Wow.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And it's got even worse over the last few years in a lot of the Afghanistan, for example, where it's gone backwards.
Yeah. So
that's where my benefits, my royalties benefit.
Fantastic. Going back to the book, is Judith you?
No, I'm not the person in anyone. The only thing I have in common with my first person is that I liked the idea of going into general practice because you can look after a patient for years. You know, patients for over 30 years, and
if you're good at it.
Oh, I don't know, but anyway, if you don't get struck off, so I like that, and that's the only thing I have in common really with the first girl, and also that I was the only person in my family who'd been to uni.
Right.
And my brother did go to uni later. My older brother, who's also written 3 books now, but he did an open university while he was working in the Ministry of Defence. So that's what I have in common with the first girl, and I went to uni in the 60s, so a lot of the stories in that are true. Some happened to me, some happened to friends, and so there's quite a lot of truth in it trying to help.
So is it a character like that, a kind of conglomerate of people that you've known?
Well, I mean, there's different ways to do this. I did go to Glasgow Uni, and I did courses at I Write and everything, and because you can't just sit down and write, as I thought, you need to have your characters. You need to know.
I was asking you about Judith. Is she a conglomerate then? When you make up a character, she's the main protagonist in the book, obviously. Is she a conglomerate? Has she got your sense of humour? Is she named after Judith Ralston?
No,
Where does she-
she
where
had a
does she-
different name. She had several different names, and I'm in an editing group of authors in Glasgow, and they felt the names I'd given her weren't right, and so we settled on Judith. So it was just a
All right.
fluke. But no, you just decide, and you don't want to stereotype people, but I had all the characters invented before I started.
Right.
So that if there was a scene, I could look and see what I decided. He would be like, like he was bad-tempered, or he was very sensitive about something, or
Yeah, the policemen, all these guys are. You've got an idea in your head what they're like. That's interesting.
And they do things you don't
Although
want
you
them
don't
to.
know what they're going to do yet. 'Cause
No,
you don't
sometimes
really.
you don't. I had a timeline, but I was always having to change it because something else happened, or I thought it was something else.
What's the process then, Anne? Have you got a wee office at home? Do you write at home?
I write at home in my son's old room, which is now a kind of study, stacked with papers and stuff, and I can't find anything. And it looks out over a wood,
Right.
so it's quite quiet, and you can get a bit lost in there.
Yeah, that's a whole idea. That's a...
Luckily, my husband's a good cook.
Right. So that's your sanctuary in there.
Yes.
You can wait till you smell the dinner ready and then
Indeed.
come out.
Or he's shouting up, your dinner will be in the dog. We don't have one, but
Well, that's interesting because there's a cat protagonist as well in the book. Have you got a cat?
no, we don't have cats. Sadly, I'm allergic to a lot of animals, as were my kids. But the first book had a dog and cat.
Yeah.
And this one, the cat has a very important part in it that I won't say.
Yeah.
But it's also a funny cat. It's linked to ancient times because it's an Abyssinian cat, and I discovered they are descended from the Pharaoh's cats, and they look tall and skinny, and they're kind
The
of
plot
hairless.
thickens, as they say.
So the poor wee cat is probably caused the murder,
Right.
but on the other hand has a ticket that kind of solves the murder.
Okay, that's enough for now, I think.
As a ticket. Sorry, can I rephrase that? So the cat causes the murder, and the cat also is responsible for solving the murder because it's got a key hidden in its collar.
Right.
No more plot spiders.
No more, no more. On the night, have we got some readings on the night? Have you decided
I
on
haven't
that?
decided on the readings, but usually I do a wee one at the beginning and then a wee one at the end, depending how long we've gone.
Right.
Not too long because people get bored.
Yeah, yeah. Looking forward to it, and it's going to be
So
great
am I.
fun, especially at this venue, House for an Lover. Hopefully it's the first of many. And you said you've got another book you've started already.
There's another book.
Is there always an overlap?
Well, the Glasgow group makes you send a chapter of something every month.
Right,
It's got to be new.
right. What is the Glasgow group? What is
It's
that?
a group set up by my tutor, my first tutor at Glasgow Uni, who tried to get me to write poetry, but I don't have the soul for that. And she gathered together. We used to meet up at Garnet Hill, near the
City Centre?
city centre.
Near
But
the
now
art
we're on
school?
Zoom.
Near the art school?
Now we're in Zoom, and there are people who are in Greece and people who are in France
All
and
over
stuff
the
now,
world.
so it's all on Zoom. And so every month we get all the stuff beforehand, and we have to say what we like about it, what we didn't like about it, and how we do it different. That was
Right.
the thing. And it's also great fun. And some of them will be coming to the House for an Art Lover.
It's interesting that this is your third book, and there's very much still a learning process, isn't
Oh,
it?
absolutely.
It's
Writers
on
never stop
forever.
learning.
Yeah,
Writers never stop.
that's the fun of it, I suppose. Fantastic. I'm really looking forward to the launch, and I think after the launch, and once the book's out in the public and the spoilers are out there, we can maybe do something again. With a crowd of us, do our own wee book club thing, and
That would be super.
and look at your work in more detail.
That would be super. And I think we could look at some of the other great Ringwood titles as well.
Yeah.
Which are very eclectic and often quirky and unexpected when you read them.
How did you get associated with Ringwood in the first place?
Well, the
then?
first book I sent out to, I don't know, about 20 people, publishers, and some of them said, oh, we really like this, but our list is closed for 2 years, or else didn't reply. Or in one case, sent a rejection in 45 minutes. That was the record.
Right, wow.
Obviously hadn't
They
read the
read a lot
letter.
of it, didn't they? They read the
and
letter.
then I got this email asking for the whole transcript from Ringwood. And then
What had you sent out initially?
I sent three chapters.
Okay.
That's the usual, three
Yep.
chapters. And then I was invited to the Curlers in Byres Road, which featured in the first book, by Sandy, who said...
Sandy
look-
Jimison?
Sandy Jimison, who's the CEO of Ringwood,
Yep.
he said we love the book.
Lovely.
So that's how it started.
So he was offering you a deal at that point? He was wanting to
yeah,
publish it at that
publish it,
stage?
yeah.
So it had been through the process.
I'd been through the process and read by a good number of people, I think, in the organisation.
The good thing about Ringwood, and I can say this from experience now, is that everything's read. So there's never going to be a 45-minute response. It's anything we get the opposite, the 4-month response, especially just now because of the backlog we've got.
And
it turns out everybody wrote a book during lockdown.
I know, and I think the thing about it is that all the major publishers and agents, I've noticed on Twitter and whatnot, say that they close for 3 months of the year. And I think you need to do that to catch up sometimes.
But we don't.
I know, because you're too kind. But
we don't want to miss anything.
Well, I think if you closed over Christmas and New Year even, it would give you a chance. It's just a thing I've noticed that they're all doing now.
Yeah, it's part of the Ringwood process is that we only publish very limited number of books in a year, as you know. So for that reason we have to be choosy. And for that reason we need to look at, spread the net as wide as we possibly can. And we've got the intern model that we use to educate and help kids get into the publishing industry.
I see quite a few have.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. We're becoming
a
a source for the publishing industry. That's obvious that they now look at us to see, because they know that we recruit that way, they know that our books are quality books that we bring out, and that the process is
and
working.
the interns are quality because certainly most of them have at least a master's and are very up in literature and sometimes in publishing.
Yeah, and that final piece of the equation for them is that practical experience that we give them of the whole process, all the moving parts of the publishing industry. So yeah, when they move on, A, they know what they're moving into, and B, the publishing industry itself, HarperCollins, etc., know what they're getting from us. So it's working. And hopefully, with people like yourself, we can keep that process, because people feed back into Ringwood as well. People that come to us with their first book, you're still there, 3 books down the road. So that's what it's all about, is building that family.
Indeed.
And I'm so glad you're part of it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Anne.
Nice to be
I'll
here.
see you on the 20th.
I will indeed.
I'll be better dressed. I'll be better dressed. Thank you.
Thanks.